Hey there, it's me, Wolfe, and I wanted to welcome you back to the basic lesson for the second week of Wolfe's English. Last week, we talked about the different ways we use the articles a and un, and we talked a little bit about how we use the article the. This week, we're going to talk about all the other different ways that we use the article the. So, let's just hop right into it. So this week, we're going to be talking about the different ways that we use the. If you remember last week, we talked about the two simplest ways. So we're going to skip those two this week, and we're just going to hop right into all the other different ways we can use the. The first way we're going to talk about using the this week is if there is a noun and we only assume there's one of that noun. So for example, we went on a hike in the woods yesterday. Usually when we talk about woods or forest, usually in an area there's only one. So usually when you talk about woods, you assume there's one, so we say the woods. The next one is if you're at a person's house or an office, you can ask, where is the bathroom? Usually when you go to a person's house or you go to an office, there's only one bathroom or toilet to use. So instead of saying, where is bathroom, you say, where is the bathroom? The second way we're going to talk about using the is when you describe a person, a place, or a thing. So whenever you're describing something, you're going to use the. So for example, he is the man who is wearing a red sweater. I live in the house with a blue door. She is the woman I went to university with. So in all these examples, I'm talking about a person or a place or a thing that I'm describing. So whenever you describe a noun, you're going to say the noun and then the description after. The third way we're going to talk about using the this week is with superlatives. Superlatives are the highest quality of degree. So for example, good, better, best. Best is the superlative in this example. So whenever you're talking about a superlative, the highest quality of something, you're going to use the superlative and then noun. So for example, Seoul is the largest city in Korea. This is the best coffee I've ever had. She is the smartest girl I know. The fourth way we're going to talk about using the this week is with proper nouns. A proper noun is the name of something. And sometimes the names of places have a the before. So for example, the Arctic, or the Atlantic Ocean, or the Nile River, or the Rocky Mountains. Before all of these names of places, we put the. The fifth way we're going to talk about using the this week is with countries that have plural names. So if a country has an S at the end of its name, we want to make sure that we use the before. So for example, the Philippines, or the Netherlands, or the Maldives. All of these countries have an S at the end. They're plural places, so we use the after. The next way that we're going to talk about using the is for countries' official names. So every country has two different names. There's the common name that we call it, and there's the official name that we call it. So for example, you can say South Korea. South Korea is not the official name, it's the common name that we use. The official name is the Republic of Korea. So whenever we use those official names, we have to say the before. So here are some examples of the common names without the versus the official names where we use the. Some people say America or the United States. South Korea, the Republic of Korea. Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. So whenever we talk about a country's official name, you want to make sure you use the before it. The seventh way we're going to talk about using the this week is with building or monuments names. Some buildings and monuments have the in the title of their name. So whenever we're talking about certain monuments or certain buildings, we're going to use the before. For example, the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building or the Vietnam War Memorial. Whenever we talk about these buildings or monuments, we want to make sure that we use the before. The last way we're going to talk about using the this week is with decades. Whenever we talk about a decade, you have to say the decade. So for example, the 1950s or the 1890s or the 1990s. Whenever you're using a decade, you have to say the before. So for example, I was born in the 90s. Whenever you're using the decade, you have to use the decade number, apostrophe S. Now that we've talked about the other ways that we use the, we're going to talk about some of the common mistakes my students make. Like we talked about last week, a lot of students use the before a person's name. And that is not correct. You would not say, the John is tall. You would just say, John is tall. So whenever you're talking about a person's name, you do not want to use the. Another common mistake a lot of my students make is using the before a possessive noun. A possessive noun is either a person's name with an apostrophe S, so like John's, or changing John's to his. So whenever we're talking about a possessive noun, we do not use the. So whenever we talk about his, her, their, our, whenever we use any possessive noun, we're not going to use the. So for example, some of my students will say, his dog is white. That is not correct. If you're using his, you have to take away the. So instead, you would say, his dog is white. You just take out the. Another time that we don't use the is when we're talking about an exact year. So like I said before, when we talk about a decade, you say the 1990s. If you say 1990, not the decade, but the year, you do not say the. So for example, I was born in the 90s. I'm talking about the decade. I was born in 1990. No the and no S, so I'm talking about the year. So whenever you're talking about the exact year, you do not use the. Another mistake my students make is using the before the name of a mountain, a lake, or an island's name. So for example, let's talk about the tallest mountain, Mount Everest. Some people will say, the Mount Everest is tall. That is not correct. Everest is the name of the mountain, so we're not going to use the. You're going to say, Mount Everest is tall. So just like when we talk about a person's name, whenever we're talking about a mountain's name a lake's name, or an island's name, you're not going to use the. So that's it for this week's lesson. Just like last week, I'm going to be posting a link down below to the blog where you guys can get a worksheet that has all this information written down. And also it has some exercises for you to practice using all the different ways we talked about today. Also down below, I'm going to be posting a link to the Wolfe's English Instagram where you guys can follow to get more resources for studying and practicing English. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with your other friends who are learning English and like and subscribe to this channel. I hope you guys have a fantastic week and I will see you guys next time. Bye!